First of all, a very small correction to the introduction of Vister. I'm not a teacher. Thanks God, I'm not a teacher. I was a teacher just for a few months, when I was very young, and then I decided the last thing that I want to do is to be a teacher. So I'm not a teacher, I'm a fellow traveler, okay? A friend, a lover, whatever you want, but not a teacher. I have nothing to teach. In fact, my job is exactly the opposite. My job is to provoke, to support, to entice each one of you to find your own way, to empower yourself in your own journey. And that goes beyond any teaching. That goes beyond any particular individual understanding. Yeah? We carve our own path. And the more is personal, the more is belongs intimately to each one of us, the more we feel enriched, participating, passionate about it. Now, so I was a horrible student when I was in school, which I take as a point of pride. And I definitely not a teacher. The good news are that here down under in Australia, spring is definitely arriving, and that's wonderful. Different bird songs, beautiful days, high temperatures, nice ocean. So today, before we go into today, let's have a sitting together. Yeah. So let's just close our eyes and connect with the body. Forget about everything else. Just feel your body. And when I say feel your body, what I mean is don't do anything to change it, to make it different, to breathe in a particular way, to sit in a particular way. You simply are present with yourself, and in particular with your body. And the reason why we begin, like every meditation begins with the body, is because the body is the densest, the most dense dimension of our experience. Even if we are not very used to it, with a little bit of practice, it becomes quite natural, easy to recognize the simple dimensions of the body. Temperature, weight, position, density, front and back, up and down, movement of energy within the physical body. We can feel if we are tired, if we are excited, if we are grounded, if we are heavy, and so on. Or if we are light and high. So when we meditate, doesn't matter if we are advanced or beginners, if we are veterans, if we are seasoned seekers, the easiest, the most simple way to come back to oneself is by connecting with the body. And the more we connect with it, the more we become intimate with the body. And the more we realize what an incredible miracle is this body we live in. So take away any effort, take away any goal, take away any particular need to control or change or manipulate what you are experiencing in the body, and simply allow yourself to feel. And as you feel it, you might also notice that the body is continuously changing, one sensation after the other, one information after the other. Modern science has been trying to calculate the amount of information that we receive on the physical body every moment. And at the moment, which is just the beginning, it's clear that we receive about 20 to 25,000 inputs, bits of information every second. Of which we are aware maybe 7 to 10. And if you are a meditator, you can probably get up to 14, 15. But the other 24,900 and blah, 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 they are there, but they don't reach the conscious mind. There is no self-reflection. And yet, we receive them. We process them. Not consciously, but this miraculous organism processes 20 to 25,000 bits of information every second. That's living. And as you know, science is a continuous process of discovery. So maybe in a few months, they will find out that there are 50,000 or 60,000 or 200,000. We don't know. So relax and sense yourself in this moment. No effort. Nothing in particular to do or where to go. Change happens by itself. And sensing your legs and your arms, allowing your eyes to open. Give yourself a little stretch. Welcome everybody again. Nice to see you. So the topic today is a presentation of the webinar that will start in the beginning of October, which is called Self-Image and True Identity. So I will briefly touch some of the basic point of understanding, and I will be brief. So I'm not going to go in depth, because it's a really big territory. The first thing is about self-image. Now, the concept, I think, is quite easy to understand. And we all know pretty much consciously and sometimes not so consciously that we present a certain image to the world. In fact, often we spend a lot of time really polishing, cleaning, kind of improving this image, because we want to be seen in a particular way. We want to be perceived in a particular way, because we want to present ourselves in a particular way. So the self-image as an external aspect, which is what we present to the world. And then there is an internal self-image, which is actually how we perceive ourselves moment to moment. Now, unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, there is often a big gap between how we perceive ourselves internally and how we present ourselves externally. For example, one of the fundamental conditioning and teachings that man receives in their life is that it's not okay to be emotional. So that means that, and I'm sure that the man can probably relate to this, means that whenever we experience as men emotionality, we try to hide it, we try to control it. And there are many different ways to control it. Now, if you go in any office and you look at some managers, one of the classic thing of the managers is that they go around like this. The chin is pointing out, and they are kind of looking from everything, a little bit kind of pulling back, but at the same time pushing forward with their chin. And that creates a certain kind of position in the chest, in the shoulder, and presents the person with a particular energetic field, which means I am in charge, I am on top, I am the boss. Okay? So, or I'm not afraid, I can say what I want to say, I am in command, and so on. Of course, if someone is not the boss and is on the receiving end of being a low-level employee, for example, most probably will have a completely different physical position. Especially when the boss is around, will more be like this, a little bit contracted inside with eyes down, so that is not too challenging, is not too coming out, is not possible to interpret the position of the person as a conflict, as an aggression. So these are two very simple, basic images that people present. So the position of the closed down, a little bit obedient victim, kind of protected person, and the person that is aggressive or forward coming. Or there is the intellectual. The intellectual is somebody who continuously explains everything, is on top of all the information and knows everything about everything, and so on. Or there is the person that is continuously in fear. Or there is the person that is most of the time angry, and so on. So we have, or there is the helper. Some people are Mother Teresa's, so they're can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? Look at me, how nice I am, how good I am. I really want to help everybody. Can you love me? I help you. And so on. So self-image is something that we have created to encounter the world, to present ourselves to the world. So there is a certain image that we present. And then there is an inner image that very often does not correspond to the image that we present to the world. There is a gap. There is a gap in between. Now, I think this is pretty clear, and if it's not clear, if it's not pretty obvious, we can look at it in the question and answers. But the point is, where does this image come from? We are not born with a self-image. We are not born with a particular way to present ourselves. We are, when we arrive on this planet, we actually have no image. We have no any particular way to present ourselves. There is a fundamental spontaneity in each one of us. But then we learn, and that's a central part of our conditioning, that to be spontaneous is dangerous. Because when we are spontaneous, our spontaneity is often judged as wrong, is rejected. So then we start throwing away this spontaneity, throwing away these big parts of our image, our capacity to be authentic, and we put on masks. Now, together with this image of ourselves, which is created usually when we are very small, and that depends on our relationship with the environment where we grow up, there is a correspondent image of the world. So if I present myself as a person that is strong, powerful, and commanding, I naturally, between brackets, create a world around me that is responding to that image. So if I want to be a commanding person, I need people to command on. I need situation to dominate. Because otherwise, how can I prove that I am the boss? And if I am actually in the opposite side, the person that is continuously subject to other people's domination, I end up living in a world where everything around me is a mirror to that being a victim. So I become a victim of the world, of the people around me. And I energetically call towards me this kind of people. So the self-image is not an idea, is not an abstract concept. It's actually something that we wear exactly in the moment when we wake up. We wake up, we open our eyes, and immediately we immerse ourselves into a particular image. That particular image has physical characteristics, mental forms, emotional environment, and so on and so forth. And together with that self-image, there is a creation of the world around us. Now, this is not a problem because the image is actually a survival need. Unless, which is the case, unfortunately, for the majority of people, you think that you are that image. Unless you believe that you are that image. Unless you believe that if you are a woman, you need to be obedient. If you are a man, you need to be absolutely a good provider. If you are a boss, you believe that you need to be dominant, and so on. So there are all these associations that make of the image a fundamental core of our prison. So part of this webinar is about starting really exploring what is the image I live in? How do I recreate, embody, reinforce this image? And what is the relationship between this image that I have and the world I live in? How do they respond to each other? How do they relate to each other? So that we can start noticing that there is a particular territory that we keep creating over and over again. And where we tend to go back. So even when we have particular understandings, particular moments of clarity and intuition, there is an inertia in this habit of creating or living in a certain image that takes us back to that image and to that image of ourselves and the image of the world. Now, this image is at the core of our personality. So we are not talking about the most simple, immediate manifestations of our personality structure. We are talking about something that is at the core and that it is actually quite challenging to let go of. For example, I know, and I will not mention names, but I know that between you guys, there are at least 2 or 3 people that have lived or are living most of their life convinced, absolutely convinced, that their job is to make other people happy. Okay? So that means that their whole life is driven by this belief that they have to present themselves, that they to behave in a particular way, because their job to be successful is to make other people happy. And when they don't succeed, they get even more stubborn. They think that there is something wrong with them, that they are not working enough, that they are not nice enough, that they're not pleasant enough. So it is difficult and challenging to let go of our image, because our image somehow on the level of survival, it works. Otherwise you would not be here. Yeah, you would already be dead, but you are not. You are obviously alive. That means that your image as a survival mechanism is very functional. And yet it is a fundamental part of our prison. So this is one of the basic, perhaps the basic point of the webinar, understanding self-image and the image of the world. Now, when I talk about self-image, I talk also about our body image. We have also a certain idea of our bodies. Our internal ideas of our bodies, they don't correspond most of the time to the actuality of our physical body. So there is again a conflict inside, there is a gap. Yeah. So we want to look at that, and we want to see especially what are the effects, what are the results of this core structure in our day-to-day life. Now, the other central point of this webinar has to do with the personal story. And I want to explain for a moment what is that I call personal story. So let's imagine for a moment that we all have spent yesterday together, and that we all went and had, I don't know, a picnic in a park, a walk together, maybe a swim in a lake, you know, maybe then a little nap or a chat on under the trees, and so on. Now, history is a sequence of events. So there is the walk in the park, there is the dip in the lake, there is the picnic. There is just a sequence of neutral events. But if we talk about our experience, we will have, all of us, each one of us will have a different memory, a different story, a different perception. So personal story is not about what really happened. A personal story is a collection of interpretations about what happens. So if I am, for example, Andrew, who is a photographer, he might tell the story of beautiful, beautiful pictures, you know, and say, oh, and there was this incredible tree, you know, and then the lake was shimmering, and so on. If Urvi says the story, she might say, oh, and the water in the lake was so fresh and velvety, you know, and more have a kinesthetic memory of the experience. Or somebody else might talk about the sounds of the birds and the steps on the path, and the feeling of the breath, and the sensations, you know, of the air on the skin. So we all have a story. That story is not objective. That story is subjective. So when we say this is what happened, we are lying. Because what happened has nothing to do with our story. Our story is just a very particular interpretation and perspective on history. Now, why this is relevant? This is relevant because we believe that we live in reality. And we don't. We don't live in reality. We live in our story. We live in a sequence of interpretations that we put together, that we actually sew together, you know, like with a thread. And then we start believing that that's the real. That's not the real. That's our interpretation of the real. And it's beautiful that we have this capacity. But when we forget that we don't live in the real, we live an interpretation of the real that we call a reality, then we are in trouble. Because we think that we have a more or less objective reconstruction of what happened. And we don't. It's a completely subjective thing. And if we don't understand this, it's very easy to come in conflict with other people. Because each person has a completely different, personal, unique interpretation of anything. So to understand the difference between what happened in history and how I bend that to a particular subjective interpretation, it's fundamental to stop fighting with other people. It's fundamental to stop having conflict with other perceptions. It's fundamental to recognize that every single individual has a unique experience of life and existence. I think this is also quite easy to understand. Now, the problematic part is that we are very attached to our story. We, in fact, most people believe that they are their story. I am so-and-so, born in that place, son or daughter of these people, and going to this school. And we believe that because we have a story, that says something about ourselves. So what we do is that we keep finding ourselves through our story. But our story is dead. Our story is in the past. Our story has no meaning in this moment. This moment is this moment. So when we keep attaching ourselves to our story, we actually attach ourselves to a corpse. And we do that so that we can have a sense of existing. I exist because I have a story. Now, when I do that, I create a complete false sense of identity. I am because I was born there. I am because I have this job. I am because I am a mom. I am because I am a son. I am because I'm a Sicilian. I am because I am Indian or German or Polish or Russian. So what we do is that instead of knowing myself directly for who I am in this moment, I know myself through a corpse of the past. I'm not saying that it's bad to have that corpse. I'm not saying that it's bad to have a story. I'm saying that that story has little or nothing to do with who you are in this moment. So there is a fundamental challenge that we might want to start really looking into. Why I'm so attached to my story? Who am I without a story? So this is a general framing, and the other aspect has to do with true identity. True identity means how can I experience myself directly, moment to moment, beyond the story. Beyond the events that have happened in the past. Which means, how can I know myself as I am right in this moment? Which means by directly existing, by directly recognizing myself as existing in this moment. How can I do that? So this is the basic, some of the basic point of this next webinar.